Hello and good morning, everybody. I'm really excited to get started here. I'm just waiting for Marissa to jump on really quick so that we can collaborate. Let me see. I'm still waiting for her to just join on really quick. Oh, there she is. Let me grab her really quick. Just looking for her. All right, I'm waiting for her now. We will get started once she jumps. There she is. Awesome.
Hi.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I'm excited to talk about this topic today because I think it's a really important one, and it's a really I feel like it doesn't get enough to talking about it. So I'm really excited that we are able to do this. So
Definitely.
we can wait just a little bit longer and see. Just wait for a few more people to jump on really quick. But yeah. All right. So it is May the 4th. May the 4th be with you.
Yes.
I had to jump on that bandwagon. I was like, oh, I can't help it. So I just watched, I'm really behind, but I just finished like the new Star Wars movies. So I was like, they were so good. The one with Rey. I was like, ooh, girl.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those. They're pretty good.
Yeah. Super good. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started really quick here. Do you mind reading us the funding statement, Marissa?
No, not at all. So, hello and happy spring, everybody. It's looking beautiful outside lately. It's May now. The funding statement for us today is ConnectOC is a coalition dedicated to increasing accessibility to mental health services for Orange County transitional age youth, young adults, and their families by networking them to local community mental health resources. Find out more at connect-oc.org. And the ConnectOC Coalition is funded by the Orange County Healthcare Agency, the Behavioral Health Services Prevention and Intervention through the Mental Health Services Act, Prop 63. Just a quick note, we are not mental health professionals. Our focus today is going to be on anxiety and depression and how it affects many aspects of life. But if anyone has any questions that are perhaps a bit more clinical and would benefit from the advice of a mental health professional, we encourage you to take a look at our Save Story that provides some valuable resources. And of course, for more, you can visit connect-oc.org.
Awesome. Okay, and then one last thing, we do have a survey that is going to be the link in our bio. You can go ahead and take our survey, help us improve, things like that. If you do it, and you are in the running to win an Amazon gift card. So that is, I think, all the incentive I would need to take the survey as well. We're going to get jumping into this anxiety and depression conversation, but first I wanted to ask you a few little questions just to get us going and get the creative juices flowing. Marissa, do you prefer working from home or working in the office, since we've been interning this whole year remotely? So what would you prefer personally?
Right. So although the experience has been wonderful virtually, I would definitely prefer working in the office. That face-to-face connection would be, way better in my opinion.
I agree. I'm the same way. I'm like, I need to see people face to face. Screen time is just not kicking it for me, but it's what we have to do now. So hopefully we can be in the office again soon. What is jumping on that one as well? What is hard about being virtual both as an intern and as a student? What is the easiest? What's the hardest?
So the hardest things for me as a student and an intern for the past about 13 months has been just the lack of personal connection, especially at school. I had a growing group of peers. I was in several clubs. I had such a great connection with my professors, who I still have virtually, but it's just a little different. It lacks that, that personality that I would love. The The easiest thing for me is no commute time. My school was 30 minutes away, so it's nice not having that, and it's nice not having to rush in the morning, get up 2 hours earlier than classes because I got to get ready. So that's cool. It makes me feel like I have a little bit more time for myself, for sleep, for friends, at the end of the day, but nothing beats that personal connection.
Definitely, I totally agree with you. Um, it's so nice to like be able to like jump into a meeting like 10 minutes before and you're like, crap, just throw some like my shirt on, do my hair really quick, like, oh, we're at the meeting and it just
Exactly.
it's so convenient, but I'm just definitely ready to go back into the office and have that personal interpersonal relationships with peers and stuff like that as well. So another question, how for you have you seen the virtual setting affect your mental health?
So for me, it's odd. It's had like positive and negative impacts on my mental health, definitely. The negative impact would be that I just feel like many others at this time right now that we're not getting the full college experience, the full experience of being an intern, which of course makes me sad. It makes me feel like it's not fair, that we're missing out on that because we deserve it, especially if we've worked hard, everyone deserves it. But it's also had positive sides to it too, impacts on my mental health. I definitely feel a little less stressed because of that whole, I can just jump into a class 10 minutes before and, I'm not rushing, and it makes me feel a little bit better, but it's a balance, it's had both sides.
Definitely an adjustment. It's kind of like trial and error, trying to find your like a new balance of what is good and what isn't, what works and what doesn't work. So yeah, it's totally so interesting. And
Exactly.
then another question: how many hours per day are you on social media?
Way more than I wish I was. I recently just turned off notifications for Instagram on my phone because every time I would get like a like or a message, I found myself back on there and sucked in. So it was just easier for me to do that. I probably spend 4 to 6 hours like a day, in between Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Those are my biggest ones. So TikTok especially can take up like 2 hours of my time. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually had to recently delete Twitter. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. It's negatively was impacting my mental health, so I had to just cancel it, and not cancel it, but delete it, and just be done with it because it was just taking up too much of my time and was consuming me a little too
Yeah,
much.
that's definitely understandable.
So we're gonna jump into our topic now. So we're gonna start with a Harvard Health blog that we were going on and looking, and we found some interesting finds with anxiety and depression as it relates to transitional age youth and young adults. So according to the Harvard Health blog, the sharpest increase of stress and anxiety and depression are linked to transition between high school and college, especially in the first semester, leading into even the second semester and even the second year. I think that's so crazy, and they're not wrong. Like, my first semester of college was probably one of the hardest times of my life, like just adjusting to finding new friendships and adjusting to a new style of education. Like, I grew up in a Christian school. Like, I wasn't exposed to like my teachers cussing at me and or like cussing out at us, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what the heck. And or just like topics that they would cover that we wouldn't cover at our school. It was just like definitely I was like a culture shock almost, but it was so like, it was like, looking back, it was so funny now, but just being in the moment was so difficult for me. And even going into second year, I was able to relate that I had higher levels of anxiety, just based on just transitioning. And I think that's such a like stage in life for kids, and no one really talks about, no one really prepares you for the shock that you get from going from high school to college. So what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I agree. For me personally, it wasn't too hard for me to adjust to being in college, simply because I took a year off between high school. So I had a gap year, so I had time to adjust to being an adult. I got a job, I got a car, I was paying my own things, I was, doing more of that adulty stuff and preparing myself. And when I went into community college, you know, I told myself I'm not going to take a lot of classes the first semester. You know, I took 2 and I transitioned in nicely, and then the next semester I took 6. You know, so I filled my plate up the next semester. Um, Definitely, there has been so many times in the first 2 years that I was anxious and scared, and definitely felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For sure. And also a lack of sleep due to higher caffeine levels. I'm drinking coffee right now. I was just like, oh, great. Just can trigger higher levels of anxiety just with the high caffeine levels that we're ingesting, and dealing with loneliness of the first year and social stress. Um, just like I said, just transitioning into that new stage of life. You were smart in easing yourself into it. I just went, bam, full-time college student. Here I go. And boy, was it something. It was definitely interesting. I will not take that away. But another one we found that was really interesting is that stress is rising actually each year due to social media. And in this case, this study was in 2018, and it's just so funny to me that it said about 63% of college students were stressed. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they don't even know what COVID's going to bring in 2020. Like, those percentages are probably skyrocketing, like just due to the high stress and anxiety levels that COVID brought alone. I just thought the 63% was funny. I was like, wow, we thought we were stressed then. Like, just wait 2 years and you'll be stressed, I promise. Like, but yeah, that was just something that was so funny to me. But it is rising, especially a big factor of it is due to social media, because when you're on social media, you are more likely to replace social media with healthy coping behaviors. So like exercise, instead of exercising, you're gonna go on Twitter or Instagram, or having face-to-face contact and studying. We're kind of replacing those healthy coping behaviors with social media, which is developing a lower self-esteem, which I can see, you see it around. It's its own epidemic in itself about just low self-esteem, low body image, just low morale in general. So
Definitely, yeah.
what do you think about that?
Oh, I definitely agree. It plays such a big role in our lives, you know what I mean? Especially at the age that we're at, especially in high school up until college, you know. And it's hard not to compare, you know. I think that's the huge issue, is that we are seeing people that are only displaying the best moments of their lives on social media, and we are comparing that and saying, well, I didn't have that this week, you know, so
Yeah.
that means I'm a failure, or I'm not as good, or why isn't that me, you know? But
Mm-hmm.
it's not reality. You know, everyone has their hard days, and no one should feel like they need to be someone else.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And just like Photoshop is so common. Like, you just wouldn't think how common it is, and it's so common. And it's scary almost. Like that whole thing with Khloe Kardashian, and just like how she reacted so poorly when her like unphotoshopped pictures were released, and she's like, take them down. And it's like, no, keep them up. Like, let's see who you really are, and let's see, let's teach young men and women that it's okay to have like cellulite or have like certain body aspects that are frowned upon in society. Like, it's okay to have a normal body. And it's just like, it's just so interesting to me, just to see, like, seeing the statistics of all these things with so low self-esteem, and comparing ourselves with each other. Another one is drug use. So there is in college an increased experimentation with drugs like Adderall, which can lead to high anxiety levels because of stress of wanting to get good grades, wanting to do well in finals. I mean, some people should take it, like their medications, if you have ADHD, take those medications because it helps balance you and it helps you to focus in a healthy way. But those who don't need to take Adderall, and they do, often have a lot of adverse effects due to that, and actually do poorly on their exams and remember less than if they would just study the night before and get a good night's sleep. So, with that being said, it can be cyclical. So alcohol, tobacco, and drug use can be cyclical. So with depression and anxiety, so people use because yes, they're anxious, they're depressed, they're stressed, but the chemical makeup of these substances and the body's reaction to them can actually exacerbate those feelings in the long term. So we're not just thinking short term, we're thinking long term, and it may have really bad adverse effects in the long term. And people don't think about, you know, the long term. They're very like tunnel vision. Let's get this test done. Let's get this week finished or whatever it may be. So that it can be really dangerous. And like I said, if you are struggling with something like that and you think that you are ready to need help, we do have resources available on our connect-oc.org page, or you can go onto our highlights page on our Instagram bio, and they have long lists of many resources out there for you all if you need that. So another thing that causes high stress is separation anxiety. So I never really experienced this because I did commute from home to school and I lived with my parents. But some people that are in dorms, they do experience a lot of separation anxiety just because they've never been away from home for so long or whatever it may be. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, Marissa?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense to go from being in a home with your family every day to suddenly being in a new environment, a dorm. Maybe they haven't even made connections yet the first semester, you know, so it can be very lonely and isolated, and you feel kind of thrown into this new world. I also didn't have that experience. I would commute from home to school, so, and I stayed, you know, in my city, so my friends, you know, were all around still. They all went to UCs around here, so it was pretty you know, not my experience, but I've definitely, you know, heard of people from high school going to complete other states, you know, like I couldn't even imagine, you know, the culture shock and all that. You know, I got accepted to a few UC and then CSU up north, but I just decided, you know, that wasn't for me at that time. I think I was just, it's too much at one time for me to be experiencing going into adulthood and leaving home all at the same time for me.
Heck yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think another one would be financial stress. Again, I was blessed to have my parents pay for my school. So I never really experienced this either. But it definitely is hard, and it takes a really big toll on a lot of people. Some people can't even go to school because they can't afford it. Or the awkward gap of financial aid where your parents make too much, but you can't afford to cover school. So it's like that awkward gap, and how to navigate through that. I think that is really hard on a lot of people, and just trying to figure out how we can better ease that kind of stress for students and allow them to have a really good college experience and have the best, you know, opportunities that they can. Another one, like I said earlier, it's essentially the first chapter of adulthood. You're being thrown into the real world for the first time, and you don't know, no one gives you a how-to on how to navigate your first moment of adulthood. No one tells you what to expect. You know, you don't really have any expectations, but it's just something that can be really easy for some people and really hard for others. I think that is a really something that should be, I think, better addressed, because people are really it could be really good, it could be really bad. So anxiety with school in mind, with anxiety and depression and dealing with it with school, Marissa, as a student yourself, how can schools support those who are struggling with anxiety and depression, as professors who are listening or administrators who are listening?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Being a student myself who's gone through the majority of middle school, high school, and college, being diagnosed with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder, and really hitting, you know, rock bottoms at certain point, my own rock bottoms at certain points throughout all those years. What I've noticed, you know, I went from being a 4.0 student to almost failing all of my classes at one point at, you know, at my college. I just think more staff members, all staff members of all levels, not just the counselors, not just the people at the health and wellness center, everyone should be educated and take a training on mental health awareness, mental health education, what to do when a student is coming to you for help, how to empathetically reply to them, you know. I think it's really important to do that at every level, because every level could come into contact with someone like that, a student like that could really need help. So I just think that's important. That's what I've noticed, and in my opinion, this would be the first step in helping students who are dealing with anxiety and depression, just helping them feel comfortable to even open it up.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Just putting that, that vibe out there as a professor to be able to make it a welcoming space. I've had professors that were so harsh and so like, I don't care what your problems are, just get this work finished, get it done so I can grade it and be done. Then I have other professors that are every single day, how are you doing? Let's talk about, let's let's cut the lecture short 10, 15 minutes and let's talk about how we're feeling and what we're going through. And I had this one professor in particular, she literally was so cool. We'd have these deadlines and then she'd say, okay, did we all do this assignment? And majority were like, no, we didn't, we weren't ready to finish it, we're kind of stressed out with other classes, it's midterm. She goes, okay, that's fine, how about if we get it due next week? They're like, okay, perfect. And everyone, it was just like, she was so willing to be flexible with us that we were more willing to participate in class and like do our best work. And I think that it's a reciprocation of relationship. If the professor is on your side and the professor, checks on you and cares about you and will take moments to stop and let's talk about Disneyland for a second, just random topics that just get your mind off of the stresses of school, and being understanding that other classes may have tests or papers due that week, and just being aware of what's going on in students' lives, I think is so important. As a professor, that's something that is really important for students, because I think that a lot of students in her class actually did really, really well. And most of us got A's in that class because we were able to prepare adequately and to have enough time to finish assignments.
Yeah.
Like, to our best of our abilities. Like, I think that's really important. That's a good model, I feel like, to share with others, professors that ask, what can we do for you? It's ask me how I am, or ask me what you can do to help me, because at the end of the day, like, it's like me going through college and me trying to study to, you're there to help me alongside. So I think that's really important for teachers to understand and to, be aware of what's going on in students' lives. So as we're talking virtually, for you, how can teachers make a virtual space a little bit more personal, since you talked about how you struggled with personal connection with professors and peers?
Yeah, so I feel like just taking a few minutes before class starts, like you said, and talking about stuff that's not related to school. I had a professor once, this was pre-COVID. He was an English professor. He was amazing. He actually, every class started with meditation for 3 minutes, and then we would talk about how's everyone doing? Did you guys hear anything interesting on the news this week? Let's just chat a little bit about random stuff, and then remember, if you guys have any questions, you can talk to me, and that's it. It's not really not that difficult. I just think so many of us are so headstrong on just wanting to dive into the material and do what we have to do and get out of there as quick as we can, but it's important to still be able to have that connection even virtually.
I agree. Yeah, and a lot of people are afraid to talk to professors when it comes to poor mental health, or struggling with juggling assignments or things like that. I think people think that professors don't care, but they do. They really do care, and I feel like people need to really take advantage of their professors, because they are resources for you. They are there for you. They're not there for no reason. They're there to help you and get you through it. And who knows, like, the worst they can say is no. If you need an extension on something because you're dealing with really bad depression or anxiety, reach out to your professor. The worst they could say is, sorry, no. But, they could even say, you know what, get that to me when you can. Like, just take some time for yourself. But you never know unless you try. So I think that's something that is really important to make apparent, that go to your professors if you're struggling. Like, go to the resources available to you, because they are there to help you for sure. So another question for you, this one's a little bit tougher to get through, but so many people do struggle with mental health, at least one point in their academic career. So why is mental health not better addressed in the school community?
So for me, I think that it's just still considered such a taboo subject, especially in settings like school, where I feel like everyone's trying to be more professional. It's an academic environment. And students, like we were talking about right now, are afraid of looking weak, are afraid of asking for help, especially because you have this narrative in high school, that, oh, your professors in college aren't going to, let that slide. They're not going to do this. They're not going to, they're human beings too, they've had bad days. So, I mean, I'm an adult, technically, I'm 22. I still live at home and I do a lot of things myself. I pay a lot of things myself. I'm pretty independent, but I still find myself asking my aunt who I live with, who's like my mom, hey, can you help me with this? I'm getting a new car this week, so I'm like, I have no idea what to do, like, can you help me? Even with college, sometimes I'm like, what should I do? There's no shame in asking for help. Just because you're over the age of 18 doesn't mean that you need to feel shame and asking for help. You don't need to stay being professional or trying to act like nothing phases you. It really is a block there.
It is, definitely. And yeah, it's just, I think it's like a pride issue. Like, we don't want to ask for help, and asking for help is a very humbling thing.
Right.
So a lot of people don't want to, ask for help and admit that they can't do it on their own. Most of us pretty much can't do it on our own. We all need help sometimes. So that's good to normalize and to make apparent as well. So moving on to social settings with anxiety and depression, quick intro question. How do you deal with invalidation, or have you ever dealt with invalidation from other individuals who may be older than you or even same age people?
Yeah, so luckily for me, I grew up my grandparents raised me, and my grandma was very like, who cares what other people think, but funnily enough, when it comes to the depression and the anxiety, the mental illness, just dealing with stress, I do find that my grandparents have been invalidating before, just like you don't know what it was like for us when we were growing up. You have everything. They grew up in Mexico. I obviously grew up here. It's a very different setting, and they definitely struggled. But it's just because we're growing up here doesn't mean we're not struggling either. Or anyone can struggle in any setting. So how I've dealt with that is I'll try to educate them. I don't want to come into the conversation. I'm not trying to change your mind on what you're thinking. If you're set on that no one that's under the age of 30 can have depression and anxiety, okay, that's fine. But let me just tell you, this is what it's like for me, and maybe that'll open up their mind to wanting to check something else out, an article, Google it, sit down and talk to somebody else about it. If they choose not to do that, frankly, if they're not in my inner circle of support, that's okay. If you're not going to understand what's happening, if it's sometimes a generational thing, where it's just they're older, they have a completely different set on views on things, I'm not here to, sit there for, 2 hours and give you a whole life lesson, but
Yeah.
I really hope that whatever I say can help open that door.
And comparison, I think, is really important in this aspect because, you're comparing your generation's problems to this generation. You can't do that. It's so different in so many ways. And the people like the older generation, yeah, they've dealt with war. They've dealt with, if they're old enough, the Great Depression, if they were in that. I don't know how old they would be now. They would be very, very old. But,
very old,
just multiple wars and just dealing with just a lot of unrest as a country. I think that, with the bombing, with the whole, what was it? The Cold War. The Cold War. No.
Oh, the Cold War. I was
Cold War, and just dealing with being afraid that we're gonna get bombed or we're gonna bomb. It's just they dealt with a lot more.
A lot of different historical events.
Yes. But we're dealing with increased tuition levels. We're dealing with social media and comparison of social media. We're dealing with a COVID-19 pandemic.
We're living through a history book as well. A lot of what we've lived through, has is going down in the history books, and
Hmm.
it's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah. But I just think it's a different type of stressor, whether it be, this is I feel like the COVID-19 one has been more of it has affected a lot of people physically, but I think it's a very like mental and emotional tolling experience. Just dealing with being in lockdown and not understanding and hearing many different articles of different information coming out and contradicting each other. It's like, okay, who do we listen to? What do we do at this point? That's something that's been really hard. I think that's mentally tolling in itself. Um,
Yeah.
Even apart from the physical COVID itself, like it's just been the mental emotional tolls and the fear. Like I feel like most of us have PTSD at this point. Just like I know for me, when I watch movies, I watched a movie, it was from like the 90s, and they were in a mall of crowded people, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, COVID, 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 like stay away from each other, put your masks on, people. Like just the things that we have is just like we're afraid to see normalcy almost in a way, because like we're just afraid of the germs that come with it, and we're all germaphobes now. But I think it's really important to for multi generations that it is important to acknowledge your struggles as well as their own. So let's have a conversation about how was it for you in this generation of life, and then how was it for me, and let's have a discussion about how it had affected us differently, and it may affect each other differently. And mental health was was more way more taboo back then, and I think a lot of people had mental health problems, but they just never talked about it, or they never understood what it was, because they were ostracized if they admitted that they had a mental health problem. So I think it's just different. Everything is just really different when it comes to that. So we're gonna go into the next topic of social setting, which is personal stigma. Um, so how can we combat social stigma? Why are we so hard on ourselves? What How can we overcome that?
Yeah, so this may not apply to everyone, but in my experience throughout my life, the reason I've noticed reflecting just as an adult now is that I definitely grew up in an environment where I was raised by two people that definitely great was not good enough and your best could have been better. And that wasn't out of hatred or anything or wanting to make me miserable. It was out of, they didn't have everything that I have, so they just wanted to see me succeed and
Mm-hmm.
be the best that I could be. But it was a lot of criticism on schoolwork and grades and like body image, body appearance, weight. It was just a lot of that where I know that it came from not a place of awfulness, but it definitely did make me feel awful. And I just feel like I've internalized a lot of that. So now that dialogue, even though I'm out of that environment and I haven't heard those words come out of their mouths in years, it's in my head, your best isn't good enough. And, you need to do more and, think about, college and all this, it was leading up to college and now it's leading up to the rest of my life. Am I doing good enough to continue on, to be a person? Am I reaching the expectations that I have for myself now? I internalized all those standards and expectations, and they're definitely what makes me be so hard on myself now.
Yeah, I think it's super crazy. Just, we set such high standards for ourselves, and they're almost most of the times they're very unrealistic. Um, And just for me personally, I dealt with, I'm still trying to get over a little bit. I had a little level of body dysmorphia where I would see myself in the mirror and it's not what I look like in real life. I would see myself as bigger than what I look like in real life. And that would cause me to, overdo it at the gym. I go 2 times a day at the gym. I wouldn't do rest days. I would go hard. I would get upset if I couldn't do something to what I did yesterday. I would compare myself to what I did yesterday, and I would look around at the gym and I would compare myself to other girls, or even other guys, and see like, oh, they're lifting that much weight, so I need to lift that much weight too, because then I'll be strong. I'll look good. I'll look like them if I do this. And I was at the point where I was counting calories to the calorie. I was like really going ham on it. And I think that it just like, I don't know, you just got to give yourself a break sometimes. You tell people to give yourself a break, and you know, it was for me, the reason why I did that was because I wanted this is funny, but I wanted like boys to like me, and that's because I found my worth in what I looked like. And once realizing that that's not where your worth is, you know, who you are as a person and your soul, and just like the people that you have around you, and just being able to bless others around you, as well as being, you know, just everything that comes with that. I think we just need to give ourselves breaks, and we need to be lenient on ourselves. We tell people to, oh, love yourself, but you're not loving yourself. It's just like you need to
Right.
put your standards at the same level as, you know, other people, you know, just loving each other for who they are and loving yourself for who you are. You can't, you know, just being okay with um maybe not having the perfect body, and being okay with having some cellulite. It's okay, just like, oh, it's cute, like it got little dimples on my legs, you know. It's just like you you have to learn to love yourself. And I think once you learn to love yourself, like just nothing else matters, in the sense that, you know, what people say about you, it's like, I really don't care what you have to say. It's mostly about what I see in myself, and if I have a problem with self, I can fix it, you know. um
Exactly.
and then there's also like, when it comes to relaying back to anxiety and depression, just being afraid of looking bad to other people when you are dealing with depression. So like when people find out that, or however people find out that you are dealing with depression and you're seeking counseling, and people make fun of you, and you're afraid to be seen as weak, or that you can't handle problems well, and you can't handle life, and you just like, it just, I think that needs to be addressed more, because um, it's okay to seek help. Like we say it all the time. We say it almost in every live. We have resources for you. We have everything. It's okay to seek help, and it's okay to be better. Seeking help is a form of self-love, because it's acknowledging that I love myself enough to not let myself hurt anymore. So I'm going to go seek counseling at my school, seek counseling at my church, whatever it may be. Just getting over that fear
Definitely.
of admitting even that you have a problem. A lot of people can't really say things out loud because they're afraid to say that they're depressed out loud. It's okay to be depressed, but it's not okay to stay in it. So as long as you are depressed, if you're depressed, go seek some help. Go talk to your doctor. Go talk to a counselor, or someone that you trust that's older than you, or someone that you trust that's your same age as you. You know, we are not meant to deal with our problems alone. We are meant to carry each other's burdens as we go through life together. So I think that is something that is really important. We need to help, you know, of self-stigma, of getting over that fear
Definitely.
as well. So we have also found some ways on the Harvard blog to help to cope with anxiety in college. So Marissa, did you want to give us some tips about how to cope with anxiety in college?
Yeah, so the first one is approach, don't avoid. So obviously, students often skip class rather than dealing with the stressors of school, right? Avoiding things actually in the end just increases anxiety and stress. If you're struggling, definitely email the professor, ask for help. I was definitely guilty of this when I would get stressed, or when I was going through, really hard depression. I couldn't even get out of bed. I didn't go to my finals at one point, and I realized at the end of it, when I finally came out of it, I should have emailed the professor. I'm sure he would have been fine with me
Yeah.
taking the final a different day, or he would have given me a little bit of an extension. It really just added to my anxiety at the end, even if in that moment I loved just staying in bed and going back to sleep and not having to deal with the world for those 4 hours. But it really would help to reach out to a professor.
Mm-hmm.
You should also practice self-care. Without a home structure, many students maintain healthy eating habits, consistent exercise, or adequate sleep. Structure is important in stress reduction, so try to create your own daily routine. Discipline yourself when going to bed and wake up. Shower daily, eat healthy, find time to exercise each day. I couldn't agree more with that. That was the first thing I did when I was out of I got hospitalized for a while for suicide attempt, and when I came out, the best thing that I could have done for myself was go to the gym every day, eat healthy every day, go to sleep at the same time every day, you know, do things that I enjoy in between those times. It really, it's a lifesaver. Everyone should try it.
Yeah.
And then find resources on campus, of course. You know, college campuses are filled with so many resources that many students don't even realize. Look for resources such as academic advising, peer counseling, and counseling services. Again, so important. You could even, you know, sometimes I'm even guilty of looking over the emails that I get sometimes from my school. You know, okay, if it's not from a professor, if it's not about financial aid or something really, really pressing, you know, I'll just skim through it and then that's it. You know, but a lot of the times those emails have exactly what we need, you know. You know, a lot of events are still happening, even if it's virtually, you know, so we should take advantage of that, definitely. For parents, help your student achieve the things just shared and offer assistance. Help them come up with a plan or routine to help them get back on track. Definitely think that's important. Go into it, not judging, you know, open mind, empathetic, you know, understanding. Ultimately what your student wants to do, you know, is succeed, and you want them to succeed as a child as well. So, you know, parents, you know, play a huge role in this, you know, and it's sad that a lot of them might not understand what's happening, you know, or a lot of people also experience, you know, growing away from their parents during college time. But I think, you know, it should be the complete opposite. You know, we should all be growing closer and being able to talk more openly about things. For college administration, have regular check-ins and discussion regarding the mental health of their students. Make it easy for them to reach out to resources and even to you as an administrator. I completely agree. You know, like we said earlier, you know, that training in all levels, the regular checking in, you know, a lot of like the dean of our, you know, of the humanities at Cypress College, you know, such a sweetheart, you know, always the door is open, you know, you can come in and talk to her whenever, you know. And I think a lot of us get nervous because, ooh, professors, deans, you know, administrators, you know, they don't want to hear about my life. They're so busy, but their life is their students, their life is work and family and creating these connections. So why not, you know, take advantage of that? And getting help. Don't be afraid to seek help, whether it be a trusted person older than you or at a school campus or even in our resources, you know, those crisis helplines that, you know, if you have no one to talk to and you feel alone, you know, there is someone to talk to. There's someone to text. There's someone to message on the computer at all times. They're there for you, you know, they're there for you. So you're not the only one that's feeling this way. Most definitely. That is why these resources exist. Be open and have conversations with your peers and others about your struggle. You know, share the burdens. Most definitely. I think that's one of the greatest things that I've come to experience is my friends being able to open up to me and tell me, hey, you know, I'm having these issues. And growing up and realizing, you know what, I'm not the only one that had these experiences growing up. Actually, all of us are pretty, you know, dealing with so many things that it's just amazing that we keep waking up each day and taking on, you know, the world and continuing on with our lives. You know, it's we're strong, you know. That's what I have to say, you know. It's pretty
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's really awesome to I love it's almost like such a rewarding thing when like a friend comes to you with something
Mhm.
you're like, I love that you trust me enough to be able to walk alongside you in this journey of life and um, be your help and be what you need, you know, to get through it. And that's it's such a privilege and an honor to be that person. So like encourage people to be that way and want to be that for somebody else. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, that's all that we have today. I had so much fun talking about all these really important topics with you, Marissa. Like I said earlier, resources are available to you either on connect-oc.org or on our Instagram highlights page. We have so many resources for you, whatever
Yes.
your needs may be. We are here for you. We're always here for you. If you ever need anything, go ahead and you can message us on Instagram or so that we can help you, you know, connect with maybe higher help or anything of that sort. So again, thank you all for watching. Check in with a friend today. Let them know that you're there. Um,
Yes.
be there for them. And also for our survey and our link in our bio, take that survey and you could be in the running for an Amazon gift card. So thank you so much, Marissa, for your time. I really had so much fun
Thank you, Sarah.
having this conversation with you and increasing our conversations about these topics and,
Definitely.
you know, carrying each other's burdens and, you know, getting through it all together because being alone isn't as fun. So carry your burdens with each other and we can all get through this together. So I hope to see you again soon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.